What's up, cooks? It's Wednesday. Today, we're almost at the end of summer, so we're gonna have a little fun. On the show today, we are gonna talk about 5 reasons people don't cook. I've had a lot of people give me a lot of excuses why they tend to go for fast food and prepackaged food instead of getting in their kitchen and cooking. So we're going to answer those 5 reasons that they're not cooking, as well as we're going to unbox something that I just got new in the kitchen. So join me. What's up Wednesday? Now, believe it or not, there's a lot of people in the comments that are trying to convince me that they shouldn't cook for themselves. And so I thought we could talk about the top 5 reasons that they've come up with for not cooking, and give them some pointers about why they should. So here is my top 5 excuses from the comments why people don't cook. Reason number 1, the bell is irritating. No, reason number 1, I don't have time. My answer to I don't have time to cook is this: planning is everything. If you plan the recipes that you're going to cook throughout the week, and then when it comes to the weekend, you make one trip to the grocery store, you get all the ingredients that you need, you can cook that weekend for the entire week. You can put a couple dishes in the freezer, you can put some in the refrigerator, and then all you have to do is heat them up. So the key to cooking is planning.
Are we going to take a shot after each reason?
Yeah. Oh, that bubbly kind of got me in the eyes. Number 2 reason people don't cook: I don't know how to. I don't know how to cook is a reason why they give for not getting in the kitchen and cooking. My answer is you will never learn to cook without practicing. You will never learn to cook without practicing. You have to get in the kitchen and you have to do it. The more experience you get, the better you will get at cooking, and then you can start moving forward and experimenting and making the dishes your own. So start with a couple simple recipes. Make a quick saute. Make a quick sauteed pan-seared chicken. Once you get the hang of it, you can then move on to more complex dishes and really experiment and turn those dishes into exactly what you like. So my answer is, I don't know how to cook, is you have to practice. Reason number 3, I don't like my kitchen. Yes, a lot of people tell me that they don't like to cook because they don't like their kitchen. My answer to that is, who cares? Get in the kitchen and cook anyway. It doesn't matter if your kitchen is dated. It doesn't matter if you have too much stuff in your kitchen. It doesn't matter if you don't like the floor plan, you don't like your counters, you don't like your appliances. The bottom line is, get in there and cook. Because I know people, my neighbor remodeled their kitchen and spent $50,000, and the only thing they ever do in there is use the microwave. And let me tell you, a messy kitchen is something to be proud of. And when I'm talking about a messy kitchen, I'm not talking about this disgusting hoarder kind of kitchen or a kitchen that is not generally kept clean. What I'm talking about is a messy kitchen from someone who just got in there and threw down, right? The key is to clean while you're cooking and clean when you're done cooking and just continue to clean. A messy kitchen of a cook, of someone who is actively cooking, is a badge of honor. A $50,000 kitchen that's never used, that's spotless, that they have pictures of their kitchen on Pinterest and Architectural Digest and all these fancy things, that's nothing but a badge of shame, because that's someone who is not using their kitchen and not cooking for themselves. That's someone that's going out to eat all the time. That is nothing to be proud of. What to be proud of is a kitchen that's filled with food and filled with people and filled with messed up dishes and filled with great, fabulous dishes and filled with disappointment and filled with surprise and happiness and shock that you were actually able to execute a dish and it tastes great and you want to cook it again. So, I don't like my kitchen is not a reason not to cook. If you're sitting around waiting for your dream kitchen, when you do get that kitchen, you will not be prepared to use it. So get in the kitchen that you have now and cook. Practice and learn to cook. So when you get that dream kitchen, you'll be ready to fly, right? So just get in there and cook.
This must be a biggie.
Reason number 4 that I'm not cooking. I'm a perfectionist. I spend way too much time on Pinterest. I watch too much time on the internet, and I see these beautiful pictures of beautiful food, and I can't do that. I'm intimidated. And if I can't do it like they do it, I don't want to do it at all. I'm a perfectionist. Well, my answer to the perfectionist is this. The dishes you see on the internet, on Pinterest, all over the world, are dishes that are photographed and prepared by people who are professional or prosumers in the industry. They are expert food photographers. They work at it hard, and they work at preparing their dish. They cooked it more than one time. They took more than one picture. They have fancy equipment. They know how to take the right photo. Do not be intimidated by that. Do not feel that just because you can't cook that doesn't mean you shouldn't be cooking at all, because you need to cook your dish. My answer to that is they dang well better be able to cook. Because frankly, if you are able to just do a dish and it comes out looking like those photos you see on those fancy websites, that says more about them than it does about you. Because you're a beginner. You've never cooked this dish before. You're having trouble getting your dishes right. And they've been doing it. They do that for a living. So if you are able to cook a dish and cook it exactly the same way as they do in their pretty pictures, that only says to them that they're not even living up to what a beginner, a cook that has never made the recipe. Naturally, you will not be able to cook it that way. Don't expect that to be the case. You're practicing, and don't let your perfectionism keep you from cooking, because the more you cook, the better you will get. So the fact that you're a perfectionist should not keep you away from enjoying yourself in the kitchen. Woo! And finally, reason number 5 for not cooking. I don't want to clean up afterwards. Well, I hear you on this, and I don't have an answer for that. I just have some strategies that you can use that we talked about before. Clean as you go, clean when you're done, and clean the rest later. Constantly. This dishwasher runs constantly, right, Eric?
Sure.
it runs and runs, right? There's no answer to I don't want to cook because it makes a mess. That's just the nature of the game. It's like I said before, a messy kitchen is a badge of honor. It shows that you are in there and you are throwing down and you are making food for yourself, your family, your guests, everyone else. I'm not talking about a dirty kitchen. I'm just talking about a messy one. And frankly, to me, it's a badge of honor. Don't let your kitchen be so squeaky clean and picture perfect that you're not able to enjoy it and make yourself a good meal. So, that was your top 5 excuses for not cooking. I hope it gave you some inspiration. Those things help me out on a regular basis because it's hard. You're working, you don't have a lot of time. But if you make it a priority, when you go to the grocery store, a lot of your stuff in your basket should be ingredients. It shouldn't be just prepared food. So start thinking about ingredients, thinking about recipes, how you're going to put together and start cooking. And you might surprise yourself. Yay, we do have something new this week. You know I was going to have something. I need to stop this because the pan room is bursting at its seams. So I want to get into bread making. I'm going to be having a wheat grinding show coming up. We recently got a Nutri-Mill in the house, so we're going to be grinding us some wheat. So I wanted to get a couple new bread pans because I'm really interested in what kind of size bread loaf do you make in a loaf pan, because there's so much different information out there. Every website you go to is different. Every manufacturer calls the size of the pan different from other people. So one of the things I found out is kind of the standard loaf pan size is an 8-inch by 4.5 inch. That will make a 1 pound loaf. From there, we have a lot of different things going on. Some manufacturers are going from an 8.5 by 4.5 to a 9 by 5 and a 1.5 pound, 1 versus 1.5 pound. Some manufacturers like USA Pans are calling a 1.5 pound loaf a 10 by 5. So the sizes you commonly are going to see is an 8.5 by 4.5, a 9 by 5, and a 10 by 5. What you end up and sometimes there's an 8. What you end up calling those, everybody calls them something different. One person called an 8 a 1 pound loaf. A lot of people call an 8.5 a 1 pound loaf. Some people call a 9 a 1.5 pound loaf. And some people call a 10 a 1.5 pound loaf. So I'm on Webstron's website, and this kind of tells you how much difference there is out there in the industry. So they have a 1 pound bread loaf pan, but it's a 9-inch by 4.5 inch. And it doesn't really have a brand name. So they call that a 1 pound loaf. Then they have a no-name 1.5 pound loaf, and it's a 10 by 5. So where's the 9 by 5, right? So this is a really interesting size, is a 9 by 4.5, because usually it's 8 by 4.5 or 9 by 5 or 10 by 5. The fact that this is a 4.5 and a 9. Then you have another generic, they're calling it a 1 and 1.5 pound bread loaf pan, but this is 12.25 by 4.5.
Maybe that's for angel food cake.
I have no idea. So you're looking at not only is it a 9 or a 10 for a 1.5 pound, but they're saying it's a 12 inch pan is for a 1.5 pound loaf. It's really screwy. A Volrath, an 8 3/8 is a 2 pound pan. So they want to put a 2 pound loaf in an 8 3/8 pan, when typically an 8.5 inch is a 1 pound loaf. So that's twice as much dough in the same thing. So what you're going to get with that is you're going to get a smaller loaf, but it's going to rise like this. Sometimes when it rises so big, it's very difficult to use it as sandwich bread, because when you cut it, you have this huge piece of bread that generally doesn't have as much structure, and it flops around. And it's not good for a nice, good piece of bread for a sandwich. So,
make a tostada with it.
I guess. So the sizes are so all over the place, even between the brands. So my favorite brands is USA Pan. And what's interesting is they describe their 1.5 pound loaf as a 10. Which to me kind of sounds like a 2 pound. So I don't know. I need to do a lot more research with this and play around with the pans, because what I wanted to do is I wanted to specifically order a 1.5 loaf size pan to do a 1.5 pound loaf, and there's so much variance in the size, everything from down to 8.5 up to 10. So, I don't know what to do about that. I think I'm going to try these out for a while. I also have, this is a 10. I also have one that's 8.5, and I'm sure I have one that's 9 around here somewhere. So we're going to possibly do a loaf in all 3 sizes. Do like a 1.5 pound loaf in all 3 sizes and see how they look. So this is the USA pans. I got 2 of them. So these they call a 1.5 pound loaf, and they are 10 by 5 by 3. Interesting, huh? These are pretty big pans. You definitely would not use this 10-inch loaf pan on a 1 pound loaf. It would not do well. It's way too big. This is pretty large. For them to say for a 1.5 pound loaf, I really think this 10 inch is for a 2 pound. I don't exactly know where they're coming with a 1.5. I'm going to try it with both. My standard is sort of an 8.5 by 4.5 for an 8 pound, a 9 by 5 for a 1.5, and a 10 by 5 for a 2. They're calling their 10 by 5 a 1.5, and that's just big. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I'll make a 2 pound and a 1.5 and see how they both come out. This is, I actually have one of these already. I wanted a second one. So I ordered this. This is basically a Pullman loaf. And if you've ever had the type of bread that's square, the pieces are totally square. There's no whoosh on the piece of bread. It's just square like this. Out here on the East Coast, they have a brand called Sunbeam that has square bread. This is what you make it in. You make it in a Pullman loaf. This is actually a 13 by 4 by 4. So I'm thinking this is going to need a lot of dough. I think
at least 2 pounds.
At least 2 pounds. The fact that it's not going to crown, if I put a 2 pound loaf in here in a 10 inch, but it crowns, and here it's going to stay. What it does is this lid on here, by itself, it's just a long loaf pan. But it has a lid, so you put your dough in there, and you put the lid on, and the lid keeps it from rising and crowning. So you get a square, woo! You get a square piece of bread like Sunbeam style.
Get some happy yeast going.
The fact that it's not going to crown up Could you do, I don't think a 2-pound is not enough for this.
Can you put more yeast in there?
No. I mean, I'm not a big, like, a booming yeast kind of person because I like stuff to rise slower. And if you just put more yeast, it's just going to over-rise. And potentially, some people look at their bread and they're like, why did my bread fall? And it's usually because it over-rise. The yeast wore itself out and flattened it, right? That's kind of interesting. What does this say? It doesn't really say how much dough you need to put in it. I guess I have to do a little research, and then we'll figure that out. But this is a Pullman pan, guys. You can make regular, you can make a big long, I can't get the lid off of this now. You can make a big long quick bread in here. I love to make zucchini breads that are long like this, but you know, it's made for a Pullman loaf. And basically a Pullman loaf is like a train box car. That's why they call it a Pullman, because it kind of looks like a train car. Whew. So that's going to be fun. Stay tuned. I'm going to look into more on this issue. I'm going to do some testing to figure out what, you know, I really like and what size and how much dough and all that fun stuff. I did a little research on the internet and it's all over the place. So, I guess I'll come up with something. So, happy end of summer. I hope you guys are having a good time, getting ready for fall, getting the house together, getting your decorations up, and get ready, guys, because the holidays are coming. If you like this video, please subscribe below, leave me a comment and a like, and visit my website at amylearnstocook.com. I'm also on Pinterest and Twitter at Amy Learns to Cook, and on Facebook, I'm at facebook.com/groups/Amy Learns to Cook, and on Instagram, I'm at Cooking with Amy. Cheers. Go boss!
Go, boss.
Go drink.
We're not advocating drinking.
No, this is punch.